Can you create HFY Sci-Fi story outlines for me in a third-person style? I'll only provide the title, and the story should be completed in 7 parts.
It should be interesting, violated free, and every part should be engaging so the audience doesn't get bored.
David Carter stood on the edge of the alien planet, the sun setting on the horizon in a dazzling array of colors. He had been stationed here for months, a lone operative for Earth's mission to gather intelligence about a hostile alien race. His task had been clear: gather as much information as possible and return home. His shuttle was already scheduled to depart, and everything seemed set for his return to Earth. It had been a long, exhausting mission. The alien world had been as strange as it was beautiful, an endless stretch of arid deserts, dense jungles, and towering mountain ranges. But it was the alien architecture, with its crystalline towers and floating cities, that had captivated him. As much as he had spent his time studying the alien culture and gathering intelligence, there was always a part of him that felt distant from it all. His loyalty lay with Earth, and his mission was the most important thing on his mind. David had been ready to leave for days now, but the strange signal he had intercepted earlier that morning kept him on edge. He had dismissed it at first, thinking it was just a glitch in the communication system. But as the hours passed, the signal had grown stronger, more insistent, as if it were calling to him. It was not a threat, he had confirmed. It was simply, "You have done." There. He checked his wristcom, glancing at the time. His shuttle was due to arrive in an hour, and there was no reason to delay. Yet something inside him urged him to follow the signal, to trace its source. His mind told him that it was foolish. He had completed his mission, and there was no need to stay. But his instincts, the same ones that had kept him alive through countless dangers on this alien world, told him that something important awaited him. As David made his way to the shuttle docking bay, his path was blocked by a group of armed alien soldiers. They were not hostile, but they were insistent. They stood in a line, blocking his way to the shuttle, their faces unreadable behind their dark helmets. "What's going on?" David asked, trying to remain calm. One of the soldiers stepped forward, his voice a soft hum in his helmet. "You are not permitted to leave yet. The Queen has requested your presence." David felt a knot form in his stomach. The Queen. The alien Queen had been the subject of much speculation among the humans stationed here. Her power and influence were immense, and her motives often seemed mysterious. It was well known that the Queen was not one to entertain outsiders, and the idea of meeting her seemed dangerous. "I don't have time for this," David said firmly. "My mission is over, and I'm returning to Earth." The soldier didn't move, and the others remained silent, watching him carefully. "Please," the soldier insisted, "you must come with us. The Queen will not be kept waiting." David's pulse quickened. There was no way around it. He had no choice but to follow them. He had his orders to complete the mission and return, but this was something far beyond routine intelligence gathering. His curiosity gnawed at him as he followed the soldiers through a winding series of corridors beneath the planet's surface. The journey seemed longer than it was, the walls around them humming with strange energy. Every step seemed to pull him deeper into the unknown. As they neared the heart of the city, David felt the air change. The atmosphere was heavier, more oppressive. It felt like something important was about to happen, and David couldn't shake the sense that he had just entered a game where the rules were not his own. They reached a massive chamber, the doors opening with a soft hiss. Inside, a throne made of dark polished stone loomed before them, bathed in an eerie blue glow. And there, sitting upon the throne, was the alien Queen herself. Her presence filled the room, and for a moment David forgot to breathe. She was unlike any being he had ever seen. Tall, regal, with dark skin that shimmered like obsidian. Her eyes glowed with an intensity that seemed to pierce right through him, and her voice, when she spoke, was both commanding and hauntingly melodic. "You must be the human," she said, her voice rich with authority. "The one who thinks he is leaving." David stood frozen for a moment, unsure of how to respond. There was no escaping the gravity of the situation now.
Yes?
He stammered. My mission is complete.
I need to return to Earth.
The Queen's gaze softened slightly, and she leaned forward in her throne. You believe that your mission is over. But what if I told you that your true purpose here has only just begun? David's heart raced. What was she talking about? He had never intended to stay on this alien world longer than necessary. He had done what he came here to do, and now he wanted to go home. But the way the Queen looked at him made him doubt everything he thought he knew. I don't understand, David said quietly. You will, she replied, her voice low and almost soothing. You are not the only one who has been sent here. You were chosen for a reason.
And now, the time has come for you to make a choice.
David's mind raced. What choice? He had no interest in staying here, no interest in getting tangled up in the Queen's politics, or whatever plans she had. But her presence, the weight of her words, it was impossible to ignore. I've completed my mission, he said, trying to stand firm. I'm going back to Earth. The Queen's eyes narrowed slightly. I think you will find it difficult to leave, Lieutenant Carter. Not while you are so needed here. David felt a chill run down his spine. He didn't understand, and he didn't like the direction this conversation was taking. He had never felt so out of control, so uncertain. I don't have time for games, he snapped. Let me go. The Queen rose from her throne, towering over him. You misunderstand, human. It is not a game. You will stay, or you will face the consequences. This world, this galaxy, they are on the verge of collapse.
You are the only one who can stop it.
David's heart skipped a beat. Was this a trap? Or had his mission, this simple intelligence-gathering task, just become something far more dangerous? The Queen's eyes locked onto his, and David saw something flicker in them, something not entirely regal, something desperate.
You are the only one who can help me, she said softly, her voice almost pleading.
David took a step back, his mind racing as he tried to make sense of the situation. Everything he knew about this mission was being thrown into question. And yet, despite the danger, despite the uncertainty, he couldn't help but wonder. What if the Queen was telling the truth? What if his role in the galaxy was far greater than he had ever imagined? As he stood there, caught between the Earth he knew and the alien world before him, David's future felt as uncertain as the stars themselves. And he knew one thing for certain. His mission was far from over. David stood motionless, the weight of the Queen's words sinking deep into his mind. Her gaze never wavered as she watched him, the silence between them growing thick with tension. It was as if the entire galaxy were holding its breath, waiting for his response. The cold stone beneath his feet seemed to echo the weight of the moment. I don't understand, David said, his voice firm, though it trembled slightly.
I was sent here with a mission to gather intel, to return to Earth. There's no reason for me to stay. The Queen took a slow step forward, her presence overwhelming in its intensity.
She moved with the grace of someone used to commanding attention, yet there was something more in her movements. A quiet desperation that David hadn't expected. It was as if the fate of her world rested on his decision, and somehow, she knew, he was the key to saving it. You are not merely a human soldier, the Queen said, her voice soft but heavy with meaning. You are a chosen one, Lieutenant Carter.
And your mission here is far from finished.
David blinked, confused.
Chosen? I was sent by Earth.
I'm not. The galaxy is not as it seems, human, she interrupted, her tone cutting through his thoughts like a blade. There are forces at play, forces you do not yet understand, forces that could destroy everything, including your precious Earth.
David clenched his fists at his sides, his heart racing. He had dealt with aliens before, but none like this.
The Queen's words were heavy with something he couldn't quite grasp, and it made him uneasy. He had followed orders, completed his mission, and now, standing in this cold chamber, he was being asked to believe that there was more at stake. More than just his orders, more than just Earth, and that terrified him. "I don't know what you want from me," he said, his voice barely a whisper. The Queen's expression softened, her eyes filled with something that resembled pity. "I want you to understand, Lieutenant. You are the only one who can prevent the end of everything. The data you collected on your mission, it's far more important than you realize." David's mind reeled as he tried to process her words. He had only scratched the surface of what he had found, but he had never imagined it could be this critical. He had thought the alien empire was dangerous, yes, but he had never believed they could pose a threat to Earth. Not like this. But there was something about the Queen's tone, something about the way she spoke, that made him hesitate. There was no malice in her voice, no hostility, just a deep, heavy sorrow. "You think this is about your war?" she asked, almost as if reading his mind. "The one between Earth and the Confederation? It's not. That's just a distraction, a small piece of a much larger puzzle." David swallowed hard, his throat dry. "Then what is it about?" His voice barely rose above a whisper. The Queen paused, looking away for a moment, as if she were searching for the right words. When she spoke again, her voice was quieter, more personal. "There are forces beyond our understanding, ancient powers that have been watching over this galaxy for millennia, powers that are now waking, and they are not kind. They seek to tear the fabric of reality apart, to reshape the universe as they see fit." David's mind raced as he processed her words. Ancient powers? The universe itself at stake? He had never signed up for any of this. He had been told to gather intel, not to become embroiled in an intergalactic war. But as the Queen continued, something in her voice, something in her eyes, made him listen. She wasn't lying. He could see that much. She believed every word. "These powers," the Queen continued, "are drawn to the artifact beneath this planet, the one you discovered. It's a key to controlling the forces that have been hidden for centuries, but it is also a trap that will lead to the destruction of all life." David's mind was spinning. The artifact. He had barely scratched the surface of what it was, but now it seemed like the center of everything. The key to the future of the galaxy. The Queen was right. He had no idea what he had truly discovered. No idea that his mission was only the beginning of something far more dangerous. "And you?" the Queen said, her eyes narrowing. "You are the one who can stop it," shaking his head.
"I'm no hero. I'm just a soldier."
"I don't even understand what you're asking me to do." The Queen's gaze softened again, and she took another step closer to him. "You are more than you realize, Lieutenant. You have the knowledge, the strength, and the will to see this through. I know you've been trained to think of the galaxy in terms of black and white, but this is not a war between good and evil. This is about survival, about preserving the balance of everything." David could feel the weight of her words pressing down on him. The entire galaxy at stake? An artifact that could destroy everything? His mind screamed at him to walk away, to take the shuttle and return to Earth where everything made sense. But something inside him, a sense of duty perhaps, or a strange connection to the Queen, kept him rooted to the spot. "I can't do this alone," he said, his voice quieter now, almost resigned. "What do you need from me?" The Queen gave him a sad smile, a mixture of gratitude and sorrow. "I need you to help me unlock the secrets of the artifact. You have the knowledge to understand it, to prevent it from falling into the wrong hands. The Confederation isn't the true enemy, Lieutenant. They are just pawns in a larger game. The real enemy is coming,
and unless we act, there will be nothing left. David's breath caught in his throat. The weight of her words settled over him like a storm cloud, dark and heavy. And for the first time since he had arrived on this planet, he realized how little he truly understood. He had thought he was just a soldier following orders. But this was something far bigger than anything he had ever imagined. "I'll do what I can," he said, his voice steady despite the fear bubbling inside him. "But I don't know if I can stop whatever this is." The Queen studied him for a moment, her eyes piercing as though reading every thought in his mind. Then, with a slight nod, she turned and gestured for him to follow her. "There is much to learn, Lieutenant. But time is running out. We must act swiftly, or everything will be lost." David followed her, his mind racing. The mission that had seemed so simple, gather intelligence, return home, had turned into something far more dangerous, far more complicated. But now, with the Queen's words echoing in his ears, he realized that this was no longer just about his mission. It was about saving everything. And though he had never imagined himself in a position like this, he knew that he was the only one who could help. As they walked deeper into the heart of the alien city, the silence stretched between them, but it was no longer uncomfortable. It was the silence of two people bound by the weight of the galaxy, and as David looked ahead, he couldn't help but wonder if he was truly ready for the path that lay before him. But deep down, he knew that there was no turning back. David's footsteps echoed through the dark corridors of the alien city, the flickering lights casting long shadows on the smooth stone walls. He followed the Queen, unsure of what lay ahead, but knowing that he had no choice but to continue. She had been kind enough to show him a glimpse of what was at stake, but the more he learned, the more he realized how little he understood. The artifact was the key. That much was clear. But what it unlocked, what it could destroy, those questions hung over him like a storm cloud. The Queen had told him that time was running out, that there were forces beyond their control, ancient powers that had been waiting for the right moment to strike. But what could he do? He was just a soldier, trained for combat, not for this. Still, something within him stirred, the weight of her trust in him. The responsibility she placed on his shoulders had begun to take root. He had known war. He had known what it felt like to face death, to fight for survival. But this was different. This wasn't a war between two opposing forces. It was something far more dangerous. It was a battle for the future of everything. And somehow, despite all his doubts, David knew he couldn't walk away from it. The Queen stopped before a large metal door, its surface covered in intricate alien symbols. She turned to David, her expression serious. "The artifact lies beyond this door," she said. "But we cannot access it alone."
"There is a key, something that will unlock its true power, and it is something you must help me find."
David nodded, though the uncertainty still gnawed at him. The Queen had told him of the artifact's power, how it could either save or destroy the galaxy. She had also spoken of the ancient beings who sought it, beings whose motives were far more sinister than anything David had faced before. But even now, after hearing the Queen's words, he couldn't shake the feeling that there was something she was not telling him. "Where do we find this key?" David asked, his voice steady despite the growing tension in his chest. The Queen's gaze softened, her eyes reflecting a deep sorrow that David had not expected. "It lies within the heart of this city, hidden away for centuries. Only those who truly understand the artifact can unlock its secrets. And you, Lieutenant, are the one who can understand it." David didn't know how to respond. He had no special knowledge of ancient alien technology. His training had been focused on combat, on tactics, none of which had prepared him for what he was about to face. But he could feel the Queen's belief in him, the weight of her trust, and somehow, despite his fear, he knew that he had to try. The Queen led him through the door, and they stepped into a vast chamber. The walls were lined with glowing crystals, casting soft light on the strange machinery that filled the room. In the center of the chamber stood the artifact, an immense structure that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. It was a thing of beauty, yet also something far more dangerous. Its surface was smooth and black, with intricate patterns swirling across it, as though it were alive. "This is it," the Queen said, her voice a whisper. "The artifact that could change everything, and you are the key to unlocking it." David approached the artifact, his heart pounding in his chest. It felt as though the room itself was alive, humming with energy. He reached out to touch it, but before his fingers made contact, a sudden flash of light filled the chamber, blinding him for a moment. When the light faded, he found himself standing in a new place, an endless expanse of stars, swirling nebulae, and distant planets. "What is this?" David asked, his voice trembling with awe. "This is the vision of what the artifact can unlock," the Queen explained. "This is the future we must prevent. The forces that seek to use the artifact's power to reshape the galaxy. But if we succeed, if we can control it, we can save everything." David's gaze shifted, and he saw something else. A shadow moving through the stars. A dark figure that seemed to reach out toward them. It was a being unlike any he had ever seen. An entity of pure darkness, its form shifting and twisting like smoke. The Queen stepped beside him, her face hardening as she looked toward the shadow. "That is what we are up against," she said quietly. "The entity that seeks the artifact. It is an ancient being, one that has existed long before our time. It feeds on chaos, on destruction, and it will stop at nothing to claim the artifact for itself." David's chest tightened as he took in the vision. The figure was moving closer, its form growing more solid, more menacing. "How do we stop it?" he asked, his voice barely a whisper. The Queen's expression darkened. "The only way to stop it is to control the artifact, to unlock its true potential. But doing so comes with a price. The key, Lieutenant. The key to unlocking its power. It is not something that can be given freely. It is something that must be earned." David felt a chill run down his spine. "What do you mean? What price?" The Queen did not answer immediately. She seemed lost in thought, her gaze fixed on the vision before them. "To control the artifact, we must understand its power. To understand it, we must give a part of ourselves. A sacrifice." David stared at her, his mind racing. "You're saying that we have to give something up? What kind of sacrifice?" The Queen's eyes met his, and for the first time David saw a flicker of fear in them. "The sacrifice is not something that can be taken lightly. It is the price of knowledge, of control, and it is something I have been unwilling to face. Until now." David felt a wave of unease wash over him. The Queen had always seemed so confident, so in control. But now, standing beside him in the heart of this alien city, she seemed almost vulnerable. And that made him wonder, what had she been hiding from him all this time? "Are you saying that you've known this all along?" David asked, his voice shaking with disbelief. "That you knew we had to make a sacrifice?" The Queen nodded, her expression filled with regret. "Yes. But I could not bear to ask it of you. You are human. You have a life, a future ahead of you. But I have nothing left but this." David looked at the artifact, its dark surface reflecting the starlight. The shadow, the entity, was growing closer, and he knew that time was running out. But the Queen's words lingered in his mind, heavy with meaning. Sacrifice. What could it mean? What would they have to give up to control the artifact's power? He turned back to the Queen, his voice steady despite the fear building inside him. "What do we need to do?" The Queen took a deep breath, as though steeling herself for what she was about to say. "We must activate the artifact's core. But to do that, one of us must bind ourselves to it, body and soul. We must become one with it." David's heart skipped a beat. You mean one of us has to give up everything? The Queen's gaze was hard, unyielding. Yes, one of us must make the sacrifice, or we will all fall. David's mind was a blur of thoughts. He had come here to finish a mission, to gather intelligence and return home. But now, standing in this alien city, with the fate of the galaxy in his hands, he realized that his role was far greater than he had ever imagined. He wasn't just a soldier anymore. He was part of something much bigger, something that could change everything. And if he was to survive, if the galaxy was to survive, he would have to face the hardest choice of his life.